All right, hi everyone. Thanks for coming. My name is Ilya, and I work in Unity Ads as a client partner on the monetization side, working with publishers, developers, help them enable our products, and basically earn more money with their games. And today's talk will be centered around LTV and how you can use user segmentation to understand your users better and know how to approach them in terms of monetization. So player segmentation is widely used in games industry, and it helps developers understand what kind of users they have in the game. So if we take, for example, any game that has PvE and PvP modes, you either have players that are focused on PvP, and you know how to approach them, what to sell them. And there are also a lot of users that don't like competitive play. They focus on like exploring and like completing quests, storyline. So it's very important to understand what kind of users you have in the game, because that's the beginning of your monetization story. And it's very important to start collecting data as soon as possible, because you may think that you don't need these numbers or these metrics, especially if we talk about engagement KPIs. And once you realize that you need them, you're not able to go back, so you lost a lot of data. So keep collecting data that you think you might not need, because there may be a day where you'll start to need that. The most basic way of segmenting your users is in these two axes, dividing them by the category of spend and their casuality. So this way we identify 4 different user groups, which are casual spender, competitive spenders, casual budgeters, and competitive budgeters. As a rule, most of your new users are casual budgeters, because when they enter the game, they just start exploring it. And these users, as a rule, are introduced to the game either through ads or through their friends. Maybe they just scrolled through, I don't know, App Store or Google Play and found it through featuring, but they don't know much about your game as a rule. And if they might forget to join, they might forget to log in regularly to get all the daily rewards or any kind of perks you offer them. So if these users remain in the same group, by not converting into other 3, they're very likely to churn out. So it's your job to identify this user group and then send them in the right direction. Now, the largest group of users is casual spenders. So these people are likely employed, or I don't know, they're students, but they have some extra money. And they're playing this game to pass the time, like commute or after work, sitting on the sofa, whatever. And since they're likely busy, time is very valuable. So they might spend a little money to progress faster through your game. And why I'm talking about progression is because it is widely known that top games and mobile in general, they're not selling DLCs or content. They sell a way to progress faster. And that's why both ads and IIPs are useful in this case. So yes, for these players, time is the money. So keep remembering that. Now, your most important and most expensive user group is competitive spenders. These are like hardcore players that want to be the best at any cost. They spend a lot, they are super competitive, and whenever you release new content, these are the users that log in first minute once the update is out to buy everything and start progressing faster. Especially in the games like these 3 versus 3 or 5 versus 5 arena builder, team builder games. Once a new hero is out, they buy a lot of cards to get this hero out of their gacha boxes and then basically progress faster. And they will try, but not necessarily use all the daily free bonuses or daily gifts. So yes, this is your most valuable, yet likely the smallest segment of users. And the final one are competitive budgeters. This is basically me when I was 15. I played a lot of MMORPG, but I didn't have money to spend, right? So I actually felt I was more competitive than the spenders, because I was trying to use every single feature that the game offered me. So you do have players like that, and you want to monetize them through ads, because they basically don't have money. But they're very competitive, they love your game, and yeah, they have a lot of free time. So they spend a lot of time and are very engaged with your game. Now, there are actually many ways to segment users. So one of them was this graph I showed you before with the casuality and spend behavior. You can also look at engagement KPIs. Engagement KPIs are very different based on the game genre. You can track time spent in the game, or I don't know, trophies acquired within a certain time, or like how much money they've spent. There's so many of them. So engagement-based segmentation is what I'm going to use for 2 case studies that I'll present. You can also use purchasing power and purchasing history. For example, let's say you have a user that entered the game. You have shown them an IAP promotion or any kind of offer. They haven't acquired it. Then you realize, but for example, they paid attention to it. They spent 5 seconds looking at the banner, haven't committed to purchase, but they are kind of interested. So after some time, you show them another promotion, and you basically learn more and more about your users. So it's very similar to behavioral economics if somebody is familiar with the concept, but it does work in mobile games. But back to this case, we're going to use engagement KPI segmentation. And yeah, thanks a lot. It's a great game published by Boombit. If you haven't played it, I highly recommend it. Let's talk about the core loop of the game. So the game is basically an online battle, PvP plus PvE, where you build your tank, you upgrade its different parts, you collect cards, and you upgrade your tank through cards. It's similar to Clash Royale, basically. We have 3 stages in the loop. One of them is upgrading your tank, and that's the part that promotes, drives progression. Then we also have the battle matches, which is basically the challenge. You can lose or win, so that's where users are trying to be at their best. And of course, the rewards, which are driving the economy of the game. So if we look at the more detailed description of the loop, you need a much stronger tank to progress and compete in higher league levels, and you need resources to upgrade your tank. While in PvP, you need skill, and you also need to have a strong tank. And they also have tournaments that require tickets. You get a couple of tickets free every day, but you can also buy them. And if you grow in the ladder really high, you'll get very competitive rewards. So a lot of users are encouraged to buy these tournament tickets. And the reward part is easy. So once you win, you get rewards. If you're MVP, you get some extra rewards. Now the engagement KPIs that you can use to understand different segments of users. So in the first loop, in the first part, you can look at the time spent on the customization screen, how many cards are unlocked, how many times a specific card is used in the second part. So basically, all these KPIs are very tied to a game, and these are not necessarily the ones that you will use in your game, but try to approach your segmentation with a similar way. So look at different numbers and KPIs that you can use to identify user groups. Let's look at a couple of profiles, what kind of users we can have in the game. So here we have Progressor Pete. He loves playing the game. He loves progression and competition. He spends all of his tickets in tournaments, and he sometimes buys more of them. But he doesn't really care about customizing his tank. So whatever cards he has, he will use them, but he's likely not spending a lot of money on chests or speeding them up. So what he prefers is playing the cheapest and the highest utility game mode, which offers him the highest success rate and win. And how can we monetize these kind of users? Since he focuses on a handful of cards, he isn't really interested in getting a huge variety of different tanks and parts. He has his setup, he's focused on it, he likes playing with the setup, so what he needs is bundles that give him the same cards that he already has. You can also sell them resources, as this can help them progress faster in the tournament league, because they need tickets to play more games, so they can spend the resources to get the tickets. And since Pete is focusing on one tank setup, he can have problems in the competitive mode, because as any other PvP games, there are mirrors, there are competitive advantages and disadvantages between different classes. So if he ends up in a match where most of the enemies are using a setup that is stronger against him, he can have problems. So if you offer him any kind of bundle to help overcome this pain while losing on a streak, it's more likely to convert. And with ads, since you don't want to ruin your monetization model and economy with ads, you don't want to offer him like too high rewards. Instead, whenever he loses a match, he loses trophies. Since he's a competitive player, trophies are like gold to him. So if you allow him to watch an ad to reduce the number of trophies lost, he will very likely use this ad placement. Now let's go to another profile, min-maxer Matt. So min-maxer means using everything a game offers within a day. So like all the daily rewards, all the allowances, whatever you can do within a game, you spend, you make sure you don't miss a single feature. So Matt enjoys all the details or amenity of the game, and he puts a lot of efforts in like customizing or playing with the stats, maybe finding the most optimal setup for the tank. He also spends a lot of time battling to prove that he has found the ultimate super tank that wins everyone, right? And they also have a high win rate, or KDA, and that's because they've been experimenting with stats. So you have a lot of players like that in Hearthstone. Whenever new card decks are released, they start testing new decks and finding out whatever works best. So that's that kind of player. And how can we monetize them? Well, since they're focusing on the strongest card sets, it's very reasonable and recommended to offer them bundles with some of them most used cards, because they've already, for example, found their most optimal setup. They're going to invest in it. But since they're also exploring new types, you can offer them new card sets. I don't know, offer them to explore a new setup. That's why if your game, or specifically in tanks a lot, they sell chests, they sell sometimes specific cards. If you know that this player doesn't have a specific card type, offer it within a bundle, like something plus this card. That's likely to work. And of course, when you release new cards, these players are the first in the line to buy them. Now with ads, it's very simple. Since they're focusing on cards, make sure you offer them a chance to get some extra cards. So that's the most generic kind of user group in most of the games nowadays. Now, number 3 is Carly. She likes collecting. So she has a huge collection of, I don't know, vases and coins at her place. And she also has a huge collection of cards in the game. And she likes having everything. Like everything, but for example, in a single amount. So her main objective is to collect every single card there is in the game. How to monetize? Easy. And of course she participates in all the modes because she wants to have the resources to get as many cards as possible. So it's a very engaged type of users. And how can you monetize? Again, help her achieve her goal. She wants to have all the cards, offer her the chests, offer her any kind of bundles that have the cards that she still doesn't have in her collection. And new cards during updates, so basically whenever you release new content, this kind of users will be interested in that. In terms of ads, we can be more creative here. So of course the first one that allows you to get more cards or increased chance of obtaining a certain card applies to all the user groups, to Matt and Carly. But now we can also provide her like chess time reducers or random free cards, again, because we know that she might be interested in that. So make sure that the ads are rewarding users with something that they want to receive or something they want to achieve, and at the same time doesn't speed up the progress too fast. Right. Now we can move to another game, Gardenscapes. The most probably popular match 3 game there is. And it's very interesting to see that even match 3 games can have different kind of user segments. So if we look at the core loop, it's build your garden, complete match 3 levels, and get rewards and use the rewards to upgrade your garden. The loop is simple, but there are different users. So if we look at the KPIs that you can look at, they're super intense. So you can look at the time spent in garden customization, inventory slots purchased, garden objects placed, how often these garden objects are changed. You can also look at how fast they progress through match 3 levels, if they use power-ups or not, what's their fail rate, and how much money they spend on, premium currency they spend to get extra lives instead of, for example, buying power-ups. And in terms of rewards, calculate the sum of everything they achieved, where they use that, and identify different user groups. So we have Explorer Eric. Eric enjoys unlocking new content to change the visuals of his garden. So he basically spends his time in his garden, maybe in real life as well, but when there's rain, he can play gardenscapes. So he might not even enjoy match 3 mechanics, but he loves building the garden. So the match 3 gameplay for him is like something he must do to be able to play his favorite part of the game. That's why he's not the match 3 kind of player. He is, how you call them? Let's say builder. He loves exploring different configurations of his garden. So if there isn't a possibility to offer different loadouts, like this garden, switch the loadout to another garden, you can monetize on that. Since Eric is Explorer and a collector, he can have a certain chair in his collection. Why not offer him another table from the same collection at a discounted price? If he likes seeing everything being in place, being really styled, whatever, he will very likely use this offer. Since he's not the best player in match 3, if he doesn't like this mode, whatever, he can have problems with progressing through levels. So offering him power-ups together with decorations in a single bundle can be a good idea, because you both help him and offer him something he wants. Now with ads, yes, he spends a lot of time in his garden, so you can be creative. Make an ad placement that randomly pops up around his flowers or plants, say bees, right? You tap on the bees, they pollinate the flowers, but to do that, you have to watch an ad. And I don't know, either the visuals become more beautiful for a couple hours or something like that. He likes the visuals, so use that and keep that in mind. Challenger Lisa, very interesting and very common user segment. Actually, most of my friends are like that. They keep playing like 5 or 6 different match 3 games at the same time, and they're like I don't know, level 600, level 1000 something in each. I don't know where they get the time, but apparently there are a lot of people like that. So she likes playing a lot of match 3 games. She takes it as a challenge. So completing a level with 1 star, well, it's not applicable to Gardenscapes, but in general, in match 3 games, if there's a star kind of progression system, a level is not complete until it's 3 stars. So these players are very competitive, and they'd rather spend money on lives rather than power-ups, because they want to do it with their own skill. They can do it. So they will try again. They will spend money on new attempts rather than easing up the game. So how you monetize them? Well, it's actually the easiest user segment to monetize. She likes the challenge, so IAPs around like new levels or like new modes that are very challenging, plus extra lives, plus, I don't know, unlimited lives would be the best. These users, whenever they get this unlimited lives for an hour, they will spend this whole time playing the game. Well, ideally. Then seasonal events with something new, like new content, new kind of levels, modes, they're also useful for them because they like enjoying and competing again. So challenge is the key for these users. And with ads, whenever Lisa plays a match and she beats the level, she's happy. She's like, yeah, I did it, I did it. Whatever she sees, she's likely to tap it. So if you just pop up a rewarded video button to boost or like give her some reward, she will very likely use this opportunity. There are other segments, but I didn't pay attention to them. So they're killers, we call them this way. These are the players that constantly look at your Facebook friends and see who's at which level, and they're trying to compete to show others that they're the best. And there's also players that are into like social aspect of the game. So Gardenscapes has a lot of characters, a lot of narrative, and one of my friends, she actually knows all the characters, all their storylines in Gardenscapes. It's very difficult to monetize them, but if you offer them some new storylines that are unlockable through either IAP or ads, this can work really well for them. So in conclusion, make sure you gather data as soon as possible, use segmentation to achieve higher LTV levels, balance ads and IAP. Don't focus on one. Try to balance both because they very complement each other. And A/B testing. It's the key to finding your most successful either promo, either ad, either creative, everything. A/B test everything. And that's more like my addition, apply behavioral economics. It's very useful in monetization of mobile games. Thank you for your attention. And let me know if you have any questions.